All right, friends. Woo-wee. Are you ready for this? I am a big believer in the words yes and, that if you have cake, you should be able to eat it too. I mean, who makes a cake and doesn't take a bite? In all seriousness, today I want to talk about having it all. Often we find ourselves making either or decisions when yes and is really what we can achieve, right? Either we have our cake or we eat it too. No, I want you to have your cake and eat it too. And maybe also decide if a green smoothie would be a better option. I'm Dr. J. I'm a horse mom who has used career growth to fund our lifestyle and follow our wildest dreams. Leaving downtown Denver and buying a $1.5 million home all by my damn self, I might add. Not a dime of child support or alimony has ever come my way. And I'm living proof. I share that to be living proof that you can do the same. Bought the home on 5 acres, all the views of the Rocky Mountains, put the horse in the yard, and 5 months later was laid off. 2 days after that, was diagnosed with a very aggressive high growth tumor in my breast and was faced with my daughter asking me, what happens to me if you die? In that moment, I decided it was time to get fierce. And so today's theme is knowing when to be fierce and when to be gentle with yourself. Because while in that moment in my cancer journey, I was fierce, I've also learned how to be gentle. My name is Dr. J. I'm a globally recognized high performance leadership expert who began my career in education, where I pioneered the development of downtown Denver's first elementary school. My commitment to educational innovation has led me to be able to spearhead innovation grants, to advise the Gates Foundation and the White House, to develop a learning and performance department to transform a high growth tech company from 450 employees valued at $600 million to over 1,300 employees worth $2.7 billion. My growth and this crazy career adventure has been inspired by my daughter's love of horses. And that has fueled success beyond what I could have ever imagined. It's why people say, start with why. Thank you, Simon Sinek. Examining my why was a really important part of my journey. And I want you to call into that why. Scripture tells us that God places the desires, or God grants the desires of our hearts. Some interpret that to mean he placed that desire there so that you might be inspired to fulfill it. Others interpret it to mean you have that desire and God's going to open the doors for you. I say either way, whatever interpretation you want to take, both of those sound really good to me. Yes, and let's use design thinking. That's actually a yes and is a strategy. So you can put those ideas on the table, which is an adaptive schools strategy. I'm starting to see all the dots of all of my uniqueness connecting into how I do my work. And it's beautiful and it's divine and it feels uniquely me. And I want you to lean into that space of being divinely aligned so that you can discover what is uniquely you. What I've also realized is that while scaling the mountaintops is really fun for an achiever like me, the top of my mountaintop had cancer. So I'm kind of questioning, especially as I love Ed Milet and I really loved watching him chase Brendan Burchard, because Brendan Burchard was one of my earliest mentors and was someone who placed this little wild idea in my head with his book, The Millionaire Messenger. I remember sitting out on the beach, highlighting that, dreaming of the day that I'd be living today, the day when I could work from my laptop anywhere in the world, where I would have time and financial freedom, where I would be able to be the best mom that I could be because I wasn't running ragged playing a game of whack-a-mole all day long on someone else's agenda, scaling the summit on a charted path. I've now realized it's time for me to set sail. So it's no wonder that as I looked for a new home, I recognized I had a divine guide enter my life who asked, are you sure this is what Gigi wants? In the aftermath of cancer and survival and having spent $58,000 on disease, it was costing over a little over 10,000 a month, between 10 and 13,000 a month to live that lifestyle. And I said, of course, this is what she wants. And that guide said, have you asked her? That conversation opened a door that I didn't know I was ready to go through. And that door, as I decided to sell our dream home, I mean, I literally was packing that place up just as fast as I'd unpacked it. As I was packing, I was remembering unpacking because it was only a year and a half later. And there was a little bit of heartbreak in that. And there were so many fond memories. And I hosted Friendsgiving, and I had the Airbnb final guests, and just all the Facebook marketplace sales, the divine appointments. I really leaned into that this was what I was supposed to be doing. It felt right. It was hard, but it felt right. And I remembered the phrase song lyrics. They have a song. The Fray was a band that originated in Colorado, and it was at a time when I was in my early 20s. And so I used to love to go and see these live bands. Love 45 and the Fray were two that I was really into. And one of their lyrics has stuck with me throughout time. And it has been, sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same. And the hardest thing was deciding to sell. That guide happened to own properties. And I thought, in that offering, I thought this one was a good idea, and it didn't go as planned. And as doors started closing in Colorado, I started to go, well, that house isn't finished being built yet. Maybe I could find a rental near this trainer. Okay, let me pursue that pathway. And I was finding things that just felt icky as options, right? They didn't fully feel good. And cancer taught me to pay attention to how I'm feeling, to pay attention to how my body makes me feel, to pay attention to how food makes me feel, to pay attention to how Qigong and meditation and prayer make me feel. And we know that feelings, that the thoughts and our beliefs and our feelings have an electric and electromagnetic frequency associated with them. Dr. Emoto captured this research. For those of you who train with me, you know that we study that. We also look at the vibrational energy that's captured by our inner narratives. So we know those things. And as I paid attention to how I was feeling, there were all of these doors closing. And then my dear friend Dane, bless her soul, she literally, we were having lunch and she said, I'm going to make it my mission to find you and Gigi a home. And she is one of the best real estate agents I have ever known. And the fact that she was willing to do that for me, even though I was initially looking for a rental, my goal, I knew God placed the desires to run this business in my heart. It is very difficult for me to not turn to my 4 degrees and my giant resume and go the easy route and keep the house, or go the easy route and make lots of money in the 3D world. But I pay attention, as Steve Jobs said, you can only make sense you can only connect the dots by looking backwards, not forwards. And as I look backwards, I know that this desire has been on my heart for 7 years. I've been working on it on the sidelines. It continues to drive me forward. And so I had to make a choice. I had to choose. And luckily, I'm the queen of helping people through pivot points. I help people pivot with purpose all day long, all the time. And as a behavioral analyst and behavioral expert in human behavior, I know how to help people guide. Yet here I was sitting there going, analysis paralysis, overwhelm, fear, anxiety. Am I making the right choice? I was really struggling with it. And yet I started to pay attention to feeling. And my dear friend Dane found us a rental on a 115-acre horse rescue. We'd be able to have Barbie there. We'd be able to have another horse there, which we were in need of because Gigi's outgrowing Barbie. And the only problem is that it did not have, I have my angels speaking to me at 11:11 and 1:11. So apologies for that. I forgot to shut that off. That's a new thing that I'm learning that I'll share with you around being gentle with yourself. So the only problem with that property is, remember, it was on 115 acres, very long drive from the gate to the house on a snowy day. And there was no garage. I've only shoveled snow a handful of times in my life. I loathe snow. I'm a big believer that you can only hate 3 things in your life. Hate's a strong word and we shouldn't use it. I always teach that to my daughter. And for me, inequity and injustice is first. Snow takes second. I know a lot of people who love snow. I have really tried, right? And I love the idea of snow. I love watching snow on like a Lifetime or Hallmark movie. And I love watching those like winter romances at Thanksgiving and Christmas time. Snow just never comes to me at a time when I'm in a gorgeous mountain lodge with floor to ceiling windows, sipping hot cocoa with some hunk of a man beside me. Snow comes on the days where it triples my commute. It makes me feel like this and my body's tense. It makes my car look like garbage. It drags mud all through the house. It creates a lot of stress for me personally. So the dream of never seeing another snowflake has been in my life for over 20 years, and it's finally here. Here I was using logic and my 3D thinking to plan for life. And thankfully, God pulled me in, piqued my curiosity, positioned the right people to guide my faith so that I could choose relationship over religion and start to build that relationship with the divine and awaken to 5D living. And I didn't even know what that was at first. When I first heard those words, I had to go Google what is 5D, 3D living. And I came across this amazing article that explained 3D, 4D, and 5D. I believe I spoke about that last week if you want to go and take a peek and pique your curiosity in that direction. Or I would love to invite you. I'm building out a brand new program that has been divinely, literally, as I align with the divine, these things are just coming to me for you. So what I know for sure is that each and every one of us has an electromagnetic field. And if you're here listening right now and you're feeling, that feeling is the divine design that we're meant to work together. And I now stand and work from that space. It is so wonderful. So I want to talk today about being fierce and being gentle. And being fierce is about having standards for yourself that determine your results, right? I love Robin Artzone on my Peloton. She's my girl. I consider her my coach. She doesn't know me yet, but I know her well. And so she says, raise your standards and raise your results. And sometimes in my cancer journey, I was too exhausted to raise my standards. So that's where this being gentle comes in. And that when we're gentle with ourselves, we can give ourselves grace and take a nap. We can allow ourselves permission to sleep in. We can indulge in overeating because the emotions feel good. We all do those things. That's part of being human. And then we can get back into our fierceness and know that structure generates behavior. That's why in my coaching program, when we focus on high performance productivity, we look at block scheduling. I've got a YouTube training on that on my channel called Shift Happens. So structure generates behavior. And when we're gentle, again, flowing into fierce and gentle throughout the day, my clients this week are focused on a challenge where we are not using our to-do list. So I started playing with this idea. I have put my to-do list. I just couldn't give it up, right? I know high performance well. So I made my structured list and then I tucked it aside. And I said, I'm going to check that on Friday. On Friday, I have a block in my calendar called Weekly Wins and Strategic Planning. And that's where in my community, we celebrate. We take a moment to pause and celebrate. And as I look at what I know feels right, that we all have inner knowing in us, what I look at, what I know for sure, I know that every time I make a to-do list, I sit and stare at that thing at the end of the day and it's never enough. And then I feel like I'm never enough. Yet as I surrender to divine alignment, being divinely aligned with God and trusting that my best is good enough and trusting that my soul has contracted for all the things that I am about to endure and that I have endured and that I've made it through 100% of those hard days, that makes me undefeated. And I know that my future is undefeated too, because I stand in the strength of the Lord and I know that I won't be shaken. I tune that into my mind all day. If I'm in the car, I'm listening to Christian radio. If I'm at home, I'm listening to high vibrational music and my God and worship playlist. I am always aligning. I'm making sure that my environment, I know that sociologists know the power of our environment, psychologists know the power of our mind. I study those subjects and I craft the behavioral environments that I need to succeed. That's what I love helping my clients do. So this challenge is, instead of our sticky note being filled at the beginning of the day, we are practicing being divinely guided. And so what that looks like is waking up. So for me, I'm going to walk you through. That means going to bed early, right? To go to bed early, I have to backwards map or reverse engineer, as my dear friend Melissa Ricker says, reverse engineer. I've heard that so many times now. And I used to love to backwards map. Backwards mapping is a strategy that educators use. We picture what the child is going to need to know and be able to do in preparation for the world. And we backwards map that down each grade level. And then we pique curiosity and create extraordinary experiences for kids to make learning joy-filled and personally meaningful. When educators are doing their jobs well, that's what they're doing for our children, right? And so I use backwards mapping a lot. Covey in the leadership space calls it begin with the end in mind, right? And so if we want to have an early bedtime, if that's our end, we have to pay attention to what we eat after 2 p.m. because that influences our digestive load and that affects the quality of our sleep and our readiness for sleep. We also have to, what I'm practicing right now, I'm sleeping on the opposite side of the bed from where my device is plugged in and all my nightstand, all the little distractions that have somehow accumulated on the side of my side of my bed over there. I'm putting those aside. I'm literally sleeping on the other side. So I get all myself ready for bed. Then I walk around the king size bed and go and lay down on the other side. And I have a blockage of pillows there because you know what happened? I was tempted to just reach across the bed for the phone. And so I'm crafting my environment very intentionally because I'm noticing that I know that these things affect my quality of sleep. And I'm noticing that my human behavior is tempted to do those things. My divinely led behavior knows not to do that. But there's this little tug of war happening between my divinely led behaviors and my human led behaviors. And so I'm trying to connect greater to God, source, the divine, whatever word makes sense for you to call it. It's that part of you that knows deeply, right? So going to bed early, before that, paying attention to what I eat after 2 p.m. So 2 p.m. on, I'm really preparing for the day ahead. Then putting my device across the room. And my favorite part right now is I'm learning to bathe in sound. One of the things that I learned in my cancer journey is that different frequencies can affect the expression of cancer cells. So sound is a great tool for healing. And you know what the best part is? It doesn't feel like work, my friends. You literally put on, I want you to just open up YouTube, search HZ frequencies for a list of choose your own adventure will pop up. You can choose it for anxiety, for deep sleep, for creativity, for the sound of God, the universe, abundance. I also want you to pay attention to the tone of those words, even just the vibration of those words. So if you do feel like you need to pay attention to healing trauma or anxiety, I don't want you to stay stuck there for too long because the electromagnetic vibration of that space can really hold you back. Oh, because I hit snooze. I apologize. So what's fascinating about that concept, I just heard this woman, let me check her name. Oh, she was on the Joe Rogan show and I'm not familiar with her. Her name's Abigail. Oh, look at that. It looks like I'm not divinely meant to go off into this rabbit hole. This is again, trusting the divine alignment. And at the end of the day, knowing this is how the divine happens, right? So as I was here's a divine example. I have sat wanting to plan out my program for longer than I care to admit. Literally, I started last April. I have an entire spreadsheet. I've got an entire team. I've got a coach. I've got this long CEO workbook that I'm working through. And you want to know when it came to me? Literally yesterday, in 2 hours, sitting at the barn with my journal. My coach said, just bring your journal. So I awakened to my sound bath yesterday. And I decided I didn't want to get up. I placed my eye pillow on my face. I continued to bathe in sound. Made me feel so good because I was doing something, bathing in sound, but I was really getting to indulge in nourishing what my body needs. And that felt so good. So as I was resting in that sound, bathing in that sound, 3 words came to me. Those 3 words now fast forward, right? I get out of bed, I go to the Peloton, I come back, an idea happens. So I write that down. I go to do my ab workout, another idea, write that down. Another idea pops into my head after that idea, write that down. So now I have 3 ideas and these 3 words. Then I go take my shower. I come back, write down another idea, do my hair, another idea. Now I'm at 5. Now I go to grab my purse and ready to walk out the door. One more idea pops in my head. Boom. I sit back down later. Well, let me go back. I'm at the barn. I go to the barn. I have only my journal. I did not bring my laptop. I'm pretty annoyed because my hand can't keep up with my head. And so I'm like, okay, peace, energetic alignment. I focus on the divine. The answers are already in you. Emma Doyle taught me that 2 years ago, and I'm finally getting it. Thank you, sweet Emma. So as I'm writing, just stream of consciousness writing, this program that I want to build out as a 4-week offer in April parts into 3 pieces with then my favorite always is integration. We've got to integrate what we know into our lives because often we know better, but we don't do better, right? And so you don't need another course. You don't need something else to put on your to-do list that you're not going to finish. You need a coach and a community and that divine guide bringing you through things. That's what helps me. That's what's helping my clients. And I'm realizing I don't have to have the perfect spreadsheet of all the things. I've already got that. I know where we're going. I know our roadmap. But guess what? There might be some detours along the way. We might want to hop in a sailboat instead of scaling the mountain. And we might want to island hop. And I might find an island that I go, oh, hey, you want to go over here? And we do. Or maybe we stay the course to get from point A to point B in the fastest amount of time. You see, there's no predetermined, your soul has a predetermined plan, I believe, but our days can be divinely guided. So you want to know what happened? Literally, I mean, you can't even make this up. Look at this. My logo just flowed out of me in bed on a Sunday morning. I'm like, this could be fun. This could be joyful. I can be gentle and also have those fierce standards that determine I'm going live with you. I'm coaching at certain times. I'm leading trainings at certain times. There is a strict standard of excellence that I hold myself to. And I prepared for that. I learned how to use food as fuel. I learned how to make sure that that I'm nourishing my body so that I'm awake and alive and vibrant energy and focused, right? So literally pops out. You want to see how it pops out? 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. Boom. I wanted a 4-week program. You want to know what else popped out of me? The resources that I was going to use for my teaching, the shopping list for participants, because I wanted to make it fun and special. And I was like, oh my gosh, in 2 hours, my friends, I've been working on this tooth and nail at my laptop since April. When you are aligned with the divine, things flow. You don't have to fight it. Okay, so I want you to think of that concept. Know when to be fierce and when to be gentle. That's big idea number 1 this week. Number 2, align with the divine. I want you in 5D. I want you exploring what that means to you. And the third is I flow, not fight. I flow, don't fight with my days, with my children, with my partner, with my life. That's it, my friends. I was also thinking that I would like to take you on an inside journey into some conversations that I'm having, because I know that the conversations I'm having with these individuals are not conversations that only that individual needs. This is something as I awaken my own intuition and I play with, I'm told I have psychic abilities and intuition that I have been covering because I turn to outside sources of knowledge. This came to me from someone who has never met me. And I was like, what? So I'm playing in that space. I'm open-minded as a person and I'm playing with that idea. There's some parts of that that conflict with my inner knowing, but there's enough of an interest that I'm exploring it. So I'm going to share with you a couple conversations. One was with a woman who she had made a decision, got herself into a program, felt very frustrated and stuck because she was not getting where she wanted to be. And then she turned away from that, found something else, and that filled her in that moment. And she's feeling good now. Yet I guarantee you there will be stuck on the other side of that good feeling, because I know that she felt good when she said yes to this program. And I'm sure there were programs before that that she said yes to. So instead of playing ping pong or whack-a-mole, chasing those programs, I encouraged her to look at the fact that she is an extraordinary decision maker. And when you tell yourself this program didn't work and you start playing that blame game, what you're also writing is an inner narrative that says, I'm not good enough. I'm not making good enough decisions. Here I go again, making one more wrong decision. Here I go again, not finishing what I started. That's not the narrative we're supposed to stand in, my friends. We are divinely aligned. And so what I shared with her was that you have been making great decisions. All of the insights and information gained have been aligned with your soul's contract, with what you're here to do, with the desires of your heart. That's why you're crazy enough to keep doing this as your side hustle. That's why you still think about it when you wake up and go to bed at night. That's why you're still on the course. So instead of thinking about the blame game, I want you thinking about divine alignment and who's in your circle right now and how they're divinely positioned to help you get the desires of your heart. That was an important message someone needed to hear. Let me see here. Oh, so many good ones. This one, overthinking. I heard this topic come up, and this client of mine, I absolutely love her. She sends me a text every single morning. It's a part of her ritual and routine. It's what works for her. And so every day we text in the morning. She's an early riser too, so I always love, I have to resist the temptation to want to see and go through my day. And so it's a good learning skill for me to also recognize not to react to everything, but to instead respond. This says, overthinking will not only kill your mind, but also your heart, your soul, your mood, your magic, your love. Woo! I'm like the queen of overthinking and analysis paralysis. And so is she. That's why she sent me that. Shout out, girl. I love you. This one. This one came to me from a wonderful, brilliant beauty who I just adore. And I was celebrating some things with her, and I was feeling behind. She's in my Worthy book group. I'd love for you to be there if you feel called, if you feel that's divine for you, send me a message. So she says, I finished the book. Well, we're on part 2. And so I'm actually still not finished with part 2. Truth be told, part 1, I had to stay up till midnight the night before we were discussing that because I was so behind. But you always divinely get caught up, right? The messages and the meaning come in divine alignment with what you need. So I said, I'm catching up on my reading at the barn right now, and sent a little picture. She wrote back, you're right where you need to be. And I wonder if you need to hear her words. I said, thank you for that message. I'm feeling behind, and I'm realizing that I often feel that way because I create these monumental to-do lists that really have very little that needs to be done on them. It's like I'm the queen of making up extra credit, hoping to earn a gold star in life. And unfortunately, there is no gold star. This is deep soul work, right? And so that divine message was really important. Let's see, I have another individual who, this one's really on my heart because this person's life is so unorganized that they're falling asleep on the sofa. They're waking up late and running late to important events in their life. And the narrative that's playing in this person's head is so wanting acceptance from the world and so wanting to be loved. And I know there was a version of myself in my past that was this person. And I just have so much love for this individual because the spirit of tenacity is still there, even amidst the mess. Still there for 2 kids, still there for all of their team and their entire business. And what I said was, you have to start putting yourself first. I remember the moment I was at a boat dock in Granby, like Grand Lake, actually. We were staying in Granby and we were at the boat dock over at Grand Lake. And there was a coffee shop there, and it had this pitcher, this big carafe, and it was empty. And it said, you cannot pour from an empty carafe. And in that moment in my life, I was trying to pour from an empty carafe. I was giving, 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 giving. There was nothing left. And I'm now so far from that place that it feels like a distant memory. And I know this person's in my soul contract so that I can remember that, because my clients need me to remember that too, because they're not all where I'm at right now in this moment, right? They're not all in the place of time and financial freedom, of fully designing their days and their child's days in alignment with the divine. They're not there yet. And that individual is that reminder of kind of the rock bottom that we all hit when we stay stuck in the 3D world, when we place the definition of our worth in our to-do list, in our earnings, in our bank accounts, in our relationships with our kids, even. And so I just hope that you hear it might be time for you to be gentle with yourself. It might be time for you to fill that carafe and to start as simple as possible. That individual and I were working on the simplest thing of sleep and food. Speaking of food, that'll bring us to our last point. This one's fun. Gigi calls this person my bestie here in Florida. And this person loves to eat and loves to eat unhealthy foods and sends me pictures of these unhealthy foods. And you know what it does? It makes me want those unhealthy foods. And I have trained and conditioned myself not to do that. But you know what? It did lead me to fried chicken and pie. And so I am really right now fighting for my life back and my health back and getting myself into divine alignment. Because another thing that I know, fun fact, the foods that we eat that are toxic calcify our pineal gland. You want to know where we connect to the divine, my friends? Our third eye and our connection to the divine connects through our pineal gland in the brain. So we have to decalcify that. We have to do that intentional work. So I'm working on that right now. That's part of my being fierce with myself. I'm in this fierce and gentle flow with you. And that individual sent me a picture of breakfast, asked what's for breakfast. I said, same as yesterday. I'll eat the exact same day today that I did yesterday. Boring equals healthy. And you don't have to spend any mental or physical energy wondering what you're going to eat. I learned that lesson thanks to Kim in a sculpted vegan program. And I thought, oh my gosh, for 6 days, I have to eat the same day again and again and again. You want to know what it did? It gave me time freedom. It gave me mental capacity to not have to wonder and worry about whether I earned the splurge or not, whether I was going to eat out or not, what I was going to make for dinner. All of those decisions were already made. It was magnificent. And then this person writes, we need to get a good steak dinner sometime. I said, and at this point, I feel like I'm fighting for my life, right? I'm trying to stay healthy, but the unhealthy cheesecake pictures, pancakes, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it just goes on. So I said, did you know steak takes 72 hours for the body to digest? That can interrupt sleep for days. Don't get me wrong, I'll enjoy a steak on occasion, but the risks outweigh the rewards. Most beef is also loaded with chemicals which are toxic to our bodies, and that poison is why so many are facing disease. I've been there and don't want to go back. And then, good point, miss. It's not, I said, it's just not worth it anymore. I had to face the music that if I was eating to live, I had a pathetic life and I needed a few better things to do with myself. It sounds cruel to say, but I was raised with tough love, and that's how I talk to myself. As you'd say, they need to hear it. Sometimes we do need to hear it. Food isn't the most interesting thing on the planet. There's a lot more to explore and do in our lives that doesn't involve food. But I will gladly join you for a steak dinner anytime, my friend, and I will enjoy it fully because it's a very special occasion. So with that, that is the divine coming to you today, whether it was intentionally through prayer and planning, or through some of these conversations with clients that maybe you needed to hear what a coaching conversation sounds like. Maybe you need to hear what it's like to be in a community of like-minded people who are focused on awakening to their soul's highest calling, to bringing the desires of their heart into the world. Some of them are doing that, planning a side hustle or business. Some are trying to just get their life back, edit their life and get it in order again, and everything in between. So my friends, that's our training this week. Next week, we're talking about flow, because today, what did we end with? Flow, don't fight. And I had another client this week say, could you do a training on that? I think I need to learn a little bit more about flow. And so that's what we're going to be doing. So next week, we'll talk about flow. Sending you all so much love and light. If someone comes to mind during this, that's how the divine works. Please send this message to them. Please be the rising tide that raises all ships. Together, we are building brilliance, starting in ourselves and in our families, in our communities, in our workplaces, and in the world. The world needs that higher vibration. You don't have to look far to feel and know that. I love you, my friends. Mwah. I find my camera again. I don't like looking at myself, so I kind of hide that and then end meeting for all. Bye, everyone.